Hello and good morning. I welcome you all to Unacademy's daily newspaper digest. My name is Harshmeet Singh and I'm back here to analyze the most important news stories from the Hindu newspaper today. It's not just about taking up the most important articles. At the very end, we'll also have a quiz based on all the important news stories that are in today's Hindu newspaper. So do stay till the very end. As you would have seen yesterday as well, we also add a lot of important bits and pieces of information to make this newspaper reading experience the entire holistic experience so that you would not need to refer to any other resource. Let's begin with the first article then that we have to take up, which is based on RTI, that is the right to information. Now, I'm very sure in polity or in governance, you would have read about the RTA, Right to Information Act, that was introduced in India in 2005. RTI, in simple terms, gives even a common citizen of the country to get the right to get information from the government. So, for example, before the RTI Act was introduced, the only people who could ask questions to the government, who could get information from the government, were the members of the parliament. There is a question hour where the members of parliament can ask questions to the ministers, but there was no way for the common man, a citizen like you or me, to ask questions to the government. In 2005, with the RTI Act coming in, that changed. The Act allowed you to ask questions, to take information from public authorities. For that, the government also created a CIC, that is a Central Information Commission. Now, if you remember, the CIC, that is a Central Information Commission, is supposed to have a Chief Information Commissioner and maximum of 10 Information Commissioners. This was the authority, or this is rather the authority that will look into the proper working of the law. Now, in the first few initial years, it did well. It even unearthed a lot of important issues, a lot of scams came up because of the RTI. However, in the past few years, as per this article, the working of RTI has been declining. This is a law that is not liked by the policymakers, by the government also, because it actually reveals information that the government or the bureaucrats would not want revealed. And this is where this law has become slightly different as compared to what the original law was supposed to be. In this article, the author says that RTI Act has eroded considerably, not just because of the government but also because of certain judgments by the court from time to time. The law initially that was helpful in bringing out important information has become a very fade copy of itself now. Over the years, as I said, many judicial interpretations, bureaucratic hurdles, all of that has led to RTI law becoming extremely weak. For example, if you just take one instance, as I just told you, the Act says that the Central Information Commission would have Chief Information Commissioner and maximum 10 Information Commissioners. But in reality, there are almost never 10 Information Commissioners. Information Commissioners usually range from 3 to 4, and over half of the seats usually remain vacant. And it is not just on the side of the government. If you look at this article, it gives an example of certain Supreme Court cases as well. For example, in 2012, there was a Girish Ramachandra Deshpande case. In this case, there was an RTI filed about revealing certain assets held by a public servant. The Supreme Court said this is not allowed because the assets held by a public servant is a personal information and you cannot ask for personal information under the Act. Now that became problematic. See, if there's a public servant or a government servant who has earned 500 crore rupees through illegal means, obviously, and if someone wants to reveal that and RTI says, no, this is personal information, then what is the point or what is the use of having the RTI? But this Supreme Court judgment actually declined giving out such information, and this became problematic. Not just this, in 2011, there was a case of CBSE versus Aditya Bandyopadhyay. The students here asked for, they were evaluated copies, they were not happy with the marks that were given to them by CBSE. Supreme Court declined that as well. Supreme Court said that no, we cannot have these evaluated copies out in the public as per RTI. Now, if these kind of information are not available, then the point is what exactly will be available under RTI? Isn't that the entire idea of RTI? And this is why the author says that the law has not lived up to the expectation that we had. And the remaining part of the law or the remaining aspect of the law has now been curtailed by the government itself. For example, recently we had the Digital Personal Data Protection Act that was passed. Under this act, RTI Act was amended. It removed the clause that required the authorities to disclose personal information in case of larger public interest. Means there have been even more restrictions now imposed on what information can be or cannot be given. The government says even if the information is in the larger public interest, even then you do not have to disclose it. See, governments around the world, and it is not just about the Indian government, governments around the world would not like to disclose any information that does not show them in good light. For example, just take this idea. If someone asks you, tell me something about yourself, in an interview, you don't tell what are the bad points about you, what you did wrong. You always want to highlight the good parts. You always want to highlight what good things have you been doing. The same is with the government as well. So under RTI Act, the idea was that the citizens can bring out secrets, but that has not really happened. There have been bureaucratic resistance as well, as I told you. The Information Commission has a lot of vacancies. The staff is often, most of the seats are vacant. Appointments are delayed because the government doesn't see any compulsion. And the government in 2019 further changed the act to control the tenure. Initially, the act provided for a 5-year tenure for these officers, but now the government has reduced it to 3 years. The government has taken matters in its own hand. See, it's a very common technique. When you want to reduce the powers of a government post, you just cut down their tenure. The shorter the tenure, lesser are the chances that they would be able to make any impact. So it's a very common thing that happens with most of these bodies. That's what the article tells us. Let's now go beyond the write-up and see what are the other pointers about the RTI and the working of the CIC that you need to keep in mind. Now, the most important part is the Supreme Court has also identified right to information as a fundamental right under Article 19. As you know, Article 19 gives you 6 different types of freedoms. Amongst them, the most important one is the right to freedom of speech and expression. The Supreme Court has repeatedly said that unless you have all the information that you require, you cannot make up your mind and you cannot express yourself fully. So right to information is an integral part of right to expression as well. And as I said in the intro, RTI Act has been instrumental in bringing up multiple scams in light. Now, let's not discuss about how many people are in the jail because of these scams, because many of them have come out, but at least these scams have come out because of the RTI Act that have been passed. Now, there are many challenges that still remain in RTI. As I told you, there are delays in providing information. Although there is a time limit of 30 days on which the information has to be given, but there are many loopholes. Like in the second appeal, there is no time limit. The CIC does not really have any powers over the government to force them to bring out information. Not just this, the RTI activists that have been trying to bring out scams, many of them have been threatened. Many of them have been attacked or even killed in such cases. There have been suggestions that whoever files the RTI should be protected under the Whistleblower Act, means their identity should not be disclosed, but that has not happened. This is where RTI still has a long way to go to recapture the entire essence of the law for which it was first passed. Now, please understand, India is not the only country to have such kind of a law. Most democracies around the world do have such kind of a law in their own version. Right to information and their own version are available in multiple countries. Denmark, or Sweden rather, was the first one to introduce it in 1766. US has their own right to Freedom to Information Act. India also has one. But again, as I said, the more that we keep on diluting it, the more that we are taking away important provisions from it, the lesser are the chances that RTI would be able to have the kind of impact that the government had initially hoped for. This was our first article for the day. Before we move on to the second one, here are some important bits and pieces of information. If you are looking for the best and the most reliable source to cover all the current affairs and get all the added information, you should consider downloading our current affairs magazines and notes. The link to download this, you will find this in the comment section. Look at the first pinned comment and you will be able to download that. If you have any other issue, you can always call on this number and complete help will be given to you. Apart from this, if you're looking to join our offline centers, as you know, we have offline centers in Delhi, Karol, Bagh, Mukherjee, Nagar, and we also have centers in Patna and Prayagraj. You can consider joining those. These are the dates on which the batches are about to begin: Karol, Bagh, Mukherjee, Nagar, and then we also have Prayagraj and Patna batches. If you have any query, feel free to call on the number that was given on the earlier screen. The next article that we have is about interfaith relationships in India, specifically about Uniform Civil Code in India. Now, Uniform Civil Code again is one of those topics that people have read about in a lot of detail. It is a lot in the news specifically because Uttarakhand has just become the first state to implement the Uniform Civil Code. Now, this Uniform Civil Code is a very simple idea to understand, and I hope all of you know this. The basic premise is there are two types of laws: criminal laws and civil laws. Criminal laws means if you hurt someone, those laws are the same in India for everyone, irrespective of your religion. Doesn't matter if you're a Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Christian, Jain, Parsi, Buddhist. If you commit a crime, you will be given the same punishment as others. However, on the other hand, the civil laws are different. Civil laws about marriage, inheritance of property, etc. Those are different. Those are dependent on the religion that you have. So, Uniform Civil Code is an attempt to make sure that even the civil laws or the personal laws are also the same. The government of India, as you know, has been trying to implement this for a long time. It is a part of the directive principles. So it is a suggestion that the government should implement it. But Uttarakhand now has become the first state to implement this. The article is written in the light that with Uniform Civil Code, especially the one in Uttarakhand, interfaith marriages have become even more difficult. The authors here say that interfaith marriages anyways in India were a difficult affair because of a lot of provisions that the government already had. Now it has become even more difficult with the introduction of this Uniform Civil Code. Let's see what the article says. So article says that even right now, interfaith marriages were allowed under Special Marriage Act of 1954 and they were difficult. But now they have become even more difficult. So earlier in the Special Marriage Act, you had to give a 30-day notice period before your marriage. Now many states, as you know, are introducing their own versions of anti-conversion laws, be it UP, be it Uttarakhand, be it Rajasthan, etc. Now, in the Uniform Civil Code that Uttarakhand specifically has passed, there is a key provision about live-in relationship. Live-in relationship basically means that when a couple live together even before they marry or even if they are not married, this is called a live-in relationship. As per the Uniform Civil Code in Uttarakhand, even those in a live-in relationship have to get officially registered with the authorities. Means it is not a personal matter anymore. Now it was considered that who you live with or where you live should be a personal choice. But now if you are living or if you have a live-in relationship, you have to get registered with the authorities. As per this new Uniform Civil Code, first you have to declare live-in relationship within 30 days waiting period. You have to get approval from religious and community leaders. Official notification will also be given to parents or guardians. They would also get to know. And if you don't register, you will get imprisonment or fine. This is seen as an infringement on the right to privacy. This has made it even more difficult for interfaith relationship, specifically when you bring authorities. There's a phrase which says, don't bring government to the bedroom or don't bring government to your house. The government should not be regulating what happens within your house, but that is what is happening in this version of the Uniform Civil Code. One of the other problems associated with this is that it gives support to right-wing vigilante groups, those who think that it is their responsibility to manage the morality of the society. There have been multiple complaints now filed. Even the state and the police kind of give support to those who now want to infringe the privacy of someone else. In UP, as per this article, 101 police complaints have been filed under the anti-conversion laws. And in Uttarakhand, in the entire state, only one couple has registered as a live-in couple. Now, it's hard to believe that in the entire state there would be only one such couple, but that is the reality. Only one such couple has registered. This again indicates how people living in a live-in relationship are not really satisfied or are not really happy with this kind of a law. The other problem is that this kind of a law has a disproportionate effect on the women. The women are affected more because for them, they live under much more control of the family. There have been increasing number of cases of honor-based violence. Honor-based violence means when the family hurts or even kills their own girl, saying that the girl has disregarded their honor, saying that the girl has married against their caste, against their religion. So it is it is a dent to their honor. This is where, for the girls specifically, it's an even bigger issue to be dealt with. Now, at a time when we are talking about women rights, at a time when we are talking about equality irrespective of gender, we have to take this issue seriously as well, as per the author. So the author suggests that we need to look into this uniform civil code, make required changes, and if other states are looking to introduce their own uniform civil code, learn from this. Now let's go beyond the article and see what are the other implications of such uniform civil code and the laws that we have regarding marriage in India. Now, the Supreme Court in the past, in multiple judgments, has talked about right to marriage, right to choose your own partner. Supreme Court has also said that Article 21 also includes protection to individuals from state from interfering in their private relationship. Supreme Court in 2006 in the Lata Singh case said that interfaith marriages are constitutionally protected. Not just this, in 2018 in the Shafi Jahan case, the Supreme Court said that if the woman is an adult, that is above 18 years of age, she has the right to choose their partner. Means even if your parents or your guardians don't agree to the choice of partner that you have made, they cannot stop you. As an adult, you have the right to choose your partner, you have the right to decide who you would be marrying. So on one hand, we have these Supreme Court judgments, on the other hand, we have the laws which say that we will inform the parents or the guardians with whom you are living. This seems to be contradictory to each other. Now, if you compare with other nations, most nations do not really have restrictions about marriage like we have. Like in US, there are no restrictions. In France, again, there is strict secularism. It allows free marriages to be carried out. In Pakistan, religious conversion laws create legal barriers for interfaith marriages. But again, Pakistan is not a country with which you would want to compare yourself in any of these matters. We do have Special Marriage Act that allows for interfaith marriages, where none of the people would want to change the religion even after marriage. But many states are now going ahead and introducing their own version of the Uniform Civil Code. These can be the potential consequences of the way that we are going on the society. It would have a segregation of the religious community. It would also be a threat to where India is so proud of its pluralistic identity. We are so proud to say that we have diversity and we value all the different types of people who are living in the society. But then when these kind of policies emerge, when they are segregating people on the name of religion, that goes against the identity of what the country stands for. Third article that we have today is about the UGC, the University Grants Commission. Now, UGC is a body that remains a lot in the news, and unfortunately not for good reasons. If you remember yesterday also, in one of the articles that we discussed about how the UGC has discontinued their care list, that is a list of journals that they had come out with to decide who is a respected author and who is a respected faculty or not. Today's article on the UGC is about how the UGC has been forgetting its role. So UGC, University Grants Commission, was set up to ensure that the quality of education in the country in universities specifically is top notch, to ensure that there's a lot of research and development that goes on. It was not supposed to regulate the day-to-day affairs of how this university will be run. Please understand, there's a difference between how universities run, attendance record, etc. is very different. Their job was not this. Their job was to look into research and development to uphold the quality of education. Now, there is no doubt over the fact that they have not been successful in their primary job of upholding the quality of education. If you look at the global rankings, very few Indian universities appear there, if at all. On the other hand, what they are doing is they are increasingly trying to focus on the day-to-day menial work within the universities, which was never the job of the UGC. This is what the article says, that UGC has been expanding its regulatory role and it has been focusing on administrative control. For example, recently UGC has asked for attendance records for students and faculties. They have put restriction on the faculty time allocation. They have mandated uniform curriculum across universities, which again is not something that UGC was meant for. The author says that these actions are remnants of colonial era surveillance mechanism. Means if you really have to let go of universities, if you really have to build great universities, you have to let them be. I'll give you a real example. If you look at the top institutes in India for MBA, ISB is one of the top choices. Why ISB and Indian School of Business are top choice is that they are not restricted by what curriculum do they want to teach. So ISB very clearly says that we do not give you a degree. Even then, if you look at one of the highest packages that are given to students in India, those would be from the ISB. Although again, they don't follow any strict curriculum, they don't say that we will be teaching the same thing as other MBA colleges. So they have their own freedom and they have been able to make such a big name for themselves. So when you restrict the universities to teaching a specific syllabus, that does not really suit the purpose of the university, and that is not what the UGC was meant for. This is what the author says. Author says that you are not giving enough freedom to faculties. Faculties do not feel responsible for the learning outcomes now. The quality of research paper, quality of PhD thesis has been declining considerably. And many people have spoken up about it. For example, the Supreme Court has lamented the proper training of young lawyers coming in from universities. Corporate leaders like late Ratan Tata, he also talked about how a lot of students coming in now don't have the skills required for jobs. And there are so many reports that come out every single year that very few graduates from Indian universities are actually employable. Very few of them actually have the skills that are required to be employed. And this is where UGC has to take up the responsibility, because again their original mandate was to maintain the quality of education and research, and they are not doing that specifically. The author also says that politics also has a big role to play here. The governments have been trying to ensure that they appease all the sections of the society. For example, vice chancellor appointments are mostly political in nature. The government looks into caste analysis, which caste has to be represented in which universities. The government focuses on the quotas, on the ideologies that they want to propagate. Rather than choosing the best person for the job, the people who are chosen are the ones who are closer to the government, who will take the government's agenda forward. And this is where the UGC has been losing its mandate. Now, if you look at this particular article about the UGC, there are a lot of other informations that you must consider. For example, if you look at the UGC's history, it was first established in 1956 under the UGC Act of 1956. And again, the idea was to ensure standard of higher education in the country. Over the years, a lot of changes have been made. Very recently, the National Education Policy also talked about restructuring of UGC to give it a better role that is up to date. But this change has been very slow. Most of that has not really been implemented. The government or the UGC itself has not been very interested in doing that, because see, the older that an institution becomes, there's a lot of lethargy that comes into it. There's a lot of inertia that comes into it. You do not want to change. You think whatever is going on, let's just continue on that. But it is the Indian education system that is now bearing the brunt of it. If you look at the global rankings like this, you'll hardly see any Indian institutions coming at the top or in top 10, top 20. Because the research and the quality of education, the syllabus, etc. has all been obsolete in India. As you can see, number 149 IIT Bombay, number 154 ISC Bangalore in the QS World Ranking. These are not good numbers for a country that is aiming and hoping to become a world leader. This is where UGC must redefine its purpose. These are the reforms that have been proposed that you can also suggest in the mains answer. Decentralize the university autonomy means give them more flexibility to have their own curriculum, give them more flexibility to recruit faculties and have their own research funding, invest much more in research. We talked about it yesterday also, how India's R&D expenditure is less than 1% of our GDP. For a country like South Korea, if you remember yesterday, it was 4.5%. Even for China, they spend 2.4% of their GDP. Now, please understand, this is of their GDP. And China's GDP anyways is much more than India. So even the base is higher, the number is higher. So imagine how much money China is spending, which obviously has a result on the number of Chinese universities that we now see at the top as compared to the other countries such as India. The next article that we have is about US-Ukraine mineral deal. As you know, Donald Trump is back in the White House, and as soon as he was back in the White House, he announced that we will not be giving free support to Ukraine. Ukraine also has to give us something in return if they want to have our continued help. And what is it that they want from Ukraine? That is the rare minerals that Ukraine has. So Ukraine and America right now seem to be on path. It is more of a forced deal because Ukraine has been forced into it. If they don't make such a deal, America says that we will stop all the support that we are giving them in the form of money and weapons. So America has been after Ukraine's reserves, that is the reserves of rare earth elements which include lithium, titanium, nickel, etc. Now, this is important because most of the state of the art technology in defense, semiconductor, AI requires these rare earth minerals. Ukraine wants military aid, so US has now asked for a prize in return. While Joe Biden or the last government, last administration was not forcing Ukraine to do that, Trump has said that if you want a continued support, this deal has to be finalized very quickly. Now, these rare minerals are again extremely useful for a lot of purposes: semiconductor production, renewable energy, electrical vehicles, etc. The problem that the US has is that this market right now is dominated by China. China, in fact, controls over 60% of the rare earth mineral import. This is where America thinks that such a deal with Ukraine will help it become at par with China, if not overtake that. For Ukraine, they don't seem to have much option right now because they're highly dependent on the American deal or the American aid against Russia. So it doesn't really seem likely that Ukraine will walk away from this. Now, a bit of information about rare earth minerals. By the way, I have a homework for you here. Do tell me in the comment section, why are they called rare earth minerals? Are they very rare, so they are not found easily, or what exactly is the reason why are they called rare earth minerals? It's an interesting thing. If you don't know about this, do research and tell me in the comment section. Now, these are essential for a lot of modern day industry, as I told you, and China controls most of the global supply here. US and China, as you know, are engaged in a war of semiconductor chips, war of who can make the best chips and the most advanced computing systems. And a lot of that depends on these rare earth minerals. So whoever can control the supply would want or would take a much better position as compared to others. This is where the estimated reserves around the world are. China, about 44 million metric tons, followed by Vietnam, Brazil, Russia, India, as you know. Far away, but if you actually see, not insignificant. If you look at this 6.9 million metric tons, and these things, the discoveries keep on happening. But the problem is that it's not easy to extract these reserves. You might have seen some news stories about lithium reserves found in Jammu, Kashmir, etc. But these are not that easy to extract. Just because a news comes out that we have discovered lithium reserves in a part of the country doesn't mean that we are extracting it from the next day onwards. This is where we have to be careful. This is where India stands. In 2024, we released something called India Rare Earth Policy, which focus on increasing our domestic capacity, which focus on having partnership with countries like Australia that have a lot of capability and mineral reserves as well. But still, we are very far off in the race, and the two countries leading this race is US and China. The next article is a bit of good news for us, that is the defense export. In the past decade or so, India's defense export has increased considerably. And the government now is aiming to reach 50,000 crore by 2029 in terms of our defense export. Again, it's a very big jump, and this is something that we can achieve if we go on the right path. In 2014-15, India's defense export was only 1,500 crore. By 2023-24, it had increased to 23,000 crore. Now, I have one more interesting homework for you. Search for this and you will be surprised with the answer. Search for this and tell me in the comment section, to which country did India export the largest in terms of defense sector? So our defense exports were the largest to which country? Again, you will be surprised with the answer if you don't know this already, but do tell me in the comment section. The government of India has been focusing on exporting some of our best reserves, such as the BrahMos missile, Tejas light combat aircraft, artillery gun systems, and we have seen many countries especially being interested in Tejas and BrahMos. BrahMos, as you know, is India and Russia joint collaboration, while Tejas is something that is India built. It is a light combat aircraft. Countries such as Egypt, Argentina seem to be interested in this. Now, these deals take a long time to get finalized, but this is something which many countries have actually shown interest in. In the past, India has become 88% self-sufficient in ammunition. Again, not everything, but in ammunition only. Ammunition means basically the refills that you have. So the bullets, etc. Those are called ammunition. 88% of that is being produced in India. We have become much more indigenous now in manufacturing fighter jets. However, we are still focusing on improving our capability to manufacture submarines, drones, etc. We have defense production export promotion policy, under which a lot of these weapons now cannot be imported to India. Means the government of India, especially Ministry of Defense, has kind of blocked the Air Force, the Army, the Navy from importing certain stuff, telling them that you have to buy this within the country. So this is also something that we have been doing, especially to get the defense industry in India started. The defense minister said that we also have an important role for IITs and startups in this regard. India has over 1.25 lakh startups, and many of them are working in the defense sector. Defense startups are registered under Innovation for Defense Excellence program. Many of them are working on building drones, etc., and the government has been providing them a lot of support. So with them, the government aims to capture this market because drones are a big industry around the world. There are still key challenges, however. You would have seen recently how the Air Force Chief spoke not very well about HAL. He said that there are so many delays in the production line of the HAL and we can't be dependent on HAL in its production, which is true. Planes such as Tejas, by the time that they are actually delivered, it's 20-30 years after its idea. And many of them become outdated by the time that they are actually manufactured. So we have to work on improving our defense capability. We are still dependent on import of a lot of important components such as the aircraft engine. In a fighter jet anyways, engine is by far the most important aspect of it, and we are still importing it, not building it in India. There are bureaucratic hurdles as well, which is why we still have to work to improve our defense manufacturing so that we are a much better export enabled country in defense. Let me also show you some other numbers and facts beyond this particular article. If you look at the global defense market, where does India stand? India right now is in the top 25 defense exporting countries, so which is not bad. If you compare to where we have been in the past, we are rising quickly. And if the government does achieve this target of 50,000 crore, we will be able to overtake many other countries. If you look at in terms of numbers, our defense export obviously is much lower than countries such as US, which is humongous, but still it is growing. We are at $2.5 billion. The aim, as you know, is to reach 50,000 crore by 2029. And the government seems to be on track if orders of BrahMos and Tejas, etc. do culminate into real agreements. These are some other mega defense projects that the government has been working on. We have been working on 5th generation stealth fighter jet, INS Vikrant aircraft carrier, the S-400 deal that we had with Russia. We want to replace that, because we need many more of these, so we want to replace that with our indigenous made. Russia has been helping us with that as well. So very interesting times ahead, but let's see if we are able to actually deliver in time, because with defense deals the big problem is, are you able to make sure that it is on time or not? This becomes a problem. So on time delivery, no delays is something that we are hoping for. The last article for today's session is about internet shutdowns in 2024. India has a bad name of being a country with largest number of internet shutdowns. This year's report has come out. One country, that is Myanmar, had one more internet shutdown as compared to India. So 85 for Myanmar, 84 for India. But even in terms of government assured or the government ordered shutdowns, it is still India that is leading. If you look at the number of internet shutdowns globally, there were about 296 instances, where India made up 84 of them. Now, you would have seen that whenever something wrong happens, whenever there's a law and order problem, the first reaction of the government is to shut down the internet. Because internet is useful for spreading information far and wide. For example, there's a law and order situation in Manipur or Jammu Kashmir. The government of India first orders closure of the internet. That becomes problematic, because right now, everything, almost every profession is dependent on internet. Just imagine this. As simple as paying something from UPI, watching this class on YouTube, all of these things are dependent on internet. So if that is taken away, that hinders your day-to-day life. As per the report, it was in Manipur, without doubt, that most of the internet shutdowns were seen. It's rightly proportional law and order situation. The government usually cites this, but In the past, the Supreme Court has argued that internet shutdowns are a violation of Article number 19, Article 21. Article 19, freedom of speech and expression, Article 21, right to life and livelihood. Both of these are dependent heavily on internet connectivity. In 2020, Supreme Court in Anuradha Bhasin case said that internet shutdowns must be proportionate and only if necessary. Again, Supreme Court did not say that shutdowns should not happen. They can happen, but only proportionate, means only if and when required, and should not be extreme. This is where internet shutdown numbers have been. Again, overall, Myanmar won more than India, but government ordered shutdown, still India had much more than Myanmar. So we are still right there at the top. This was our session for the day. These are the most important articles. Now I have a quiz for you as promised. Let's see if you were able to digest most of this information. First, which article of the Indian Constitution guarantees right to information as a fundamental right? We discussed this. Supreme Court has said it's a part of Article 19 because in order to make your speech and expression, you have to be informed. Which constitutional article protects the right to choose a life partner in India? Article 14, 19, 21 and 25. Which is that? Article number 21. The Shafeen Jahan case, the Supreme Court has said that an adult can choose a life partner without restrictions. Which mineral is essential for semiconductor and AI computing? Uranium, lithium, zinc and lead. So one of this is important. It's a rare element. It is lithium. This is where the government of US has been focusing on to get a deal from Ukraine. One more, the one that I did not discuss intentionally. Let's see if you know this. Which organization in India is responsible for securing lithium and rare minerals from foreign countries? DRDO, Kabil, ONGC, BHEL. Slightly interesting. You can eliminate if you think you don't know the answer. The answer here is Kabil. Do tell me in the comment section what is the full form of Kabil. So we have 3 homeworks for you. This is the third one. Tell me in the comment section Kabil stands for what exactly. And these are some mains practice questions. If you want, you can practice to write answers for this. This brings us to the end of the session. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Harshmeet Singh. I'll see you tomorrow at 9 once again. Till then, take care of yourself. Bye-bye. Jai Hind.